Ernesto Che Guevara, the story of a revolutionary. The second half of the 20th century saw Latin America experience profound social and political transformations. One of the most influential and controversial figures of this period was Ernesto Che Guevara, a doctor, revolutionary, writer, and political thinker who became a global symbol of revolutionary movements. Biographical background and early years. Ernesto Guevara was born on May 14, 1928, in Rosario, Argentina. He came from a middle-class family. His father was an architect, and his mother was a writer and political activist. The family held strong anti-clerical and liberal views. From childhood, Guevara suffered from severe asthma, which limited his physical activities. However, this illness drove him to books and helped develop his intellectual abilities. He read works by Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, Lenin, and other Marxist thinkers. In 1952, Guevara graduated from the medical faculty of the University of Buenos Aires. However, his interests extended beyond medicine and were directed towards social justice and political change. The Latin American journey. The first journey, 1950, at age 20, Guevara undertook a long motorcycle journey through South America with his friend Alberto Granado. During this trip, he first witnessed the harsh realities of poverty, injustice, and social inequality. During the journey, Guevara encountered numerous rich and poor people. He saw how mining companies exploited workers, how political prisoners were imprisoned, and the conditions in which indigenous peoples lived. This experience profoundly transformed his worldview. In 1953, Guevara again traveled through Latin America, this time through Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Panama, and Guatemala. In Guatemala, he witnessed the overthrow of Jacobo Arbenzi's government, which was orchestrated by the US CIA. The Cuban Revolution. In 1955 in Mexico, Guevara met Fidel Castro, who was preparing for a revolutionary campaign against Cuba. Guevara immediately joined his movement and became the chief physician of the July 26 movement. In December 1956, 82 revolutionaries, including Guevara, Fidel Castro, and Raúl Castro, sailed to Cuba on the yacht Granma. Their goal was to overthrow Fulgencio Batista's dictatorship. The revolutionaries took refuge in the Sierra Maestra Mountains and began guerrilla warfare. Guevara quickly became one of the most influential commanders. He was not only a doctor but also an army organizer and strategic thinker. Victory. In January 1959, the revolutionaries overthrew Batista's regime. Guevara became one of the most important members of the new Cuban government. In 1959, Guevara was appointed president of the Revolutionary Tribunal at La Cabana prison. In this position, he oversaw the trials and executions of supporters of the former regime. This activity became one of his most controversial actions. Economic reforms. Guevara was appointed president of INRA, Institute of Agrarian Reform, and later Minister of Industries. He tried to apply Marxist economic principles in Cuba. The theory of the new man. Guevara developed the theory of the new man, hombre nuevo, according to which the socialist revolution should create a new type of individual guided by political consciousness and social interests rather than individual profit motives. Diplomatic missions. Guevara represented Cuba at numerous international meetings. In 1964, he spoke at the UN, where he criticized American imperialism and colonialism. Activities in Africa. In 1965, Guevara went on a secret mission to Congo to support local revolutionary movements. However, this mission failed due to local conditions and cultural differences. Bolivia. In the final years. In 1966, Guevara secretly left Cuba and went to Bolivia to start a new revolutionary campaign. He believed that Bolivia could become the center of South American revolution. In Bolivia, Guevara tried to repeat the success of the Cuban Revolution. However, local conditions were different. Peasants did not support the revolutionaries, and the army was better prepared. Capture and death. On October 8, 1967, Guevara was captured by the Bolivian army. The next day he was executed in the village of La Higuera. His death became an international sensation and his image became a symbol of revolutionary struggle. Ideological legacy: Guevara was not an orthodox Marxist. He tried to adapt Marxist theory to the specific conditions of Latin America. He particularly focused on guerrilla warfare strategy. The theory of focalism. Guevara and Regis Debray developed the theory called focalism, according to which revolution could be started by a small number of dedicated revolutionaries, foco, without waiting for all prerequisites to be created. The idea of the new man. Guevara believed that socialist revolution should transform not only economic and political structures but also humans themselves. His new man should direct his activities by social interests rather than material incentives. Literary legacy: The Motorcycle Diaries. One of Guevara's most famous books is The Motorcycle Diaries, Diarios de Motocicleta, where he described his first South American journey. This book shows how Guevara became aware of Latin America's problems. Theoretical books: Guevara also wrote numerous theoretical books on revolution, economics, and guerrilla warfare. His writings and speeches became part of Marxist literature. His Diary of the Final Months in Bolivia was published after his death and became an important historical document. Historical assessment: Positive evaluations. Many historians and political scientists evaluate Guevara as a selfless revolutionary who gave up a comfortable life in Cuba, an idealist fighting for social justice, a prominent Latin American writer and thinker, an opponent of racism and colonialism. Criticisms: On the other hand, Guevara is criticized for the executions carried out at La Cabana, economic failures, the use of authoritarian methods, disregard for democratic institutions. Balanced assessment. Contemporary historians try to evaluate Guevara in a more balanced way, taking into account both his positive and negative actions. They emphasize that Guevara was a child of his time, who acted in the context of the Cold War and decolonization. Cultural impact: Iconographic image. Alberto Corder's 1960 photograph of Guevara became one of the most recognizable images of the 20th century. This image has appeared on numerous posters, book covers, and even advertising materials. Political symbol: Guevara has become a symbol of left-wing movements and student protests worldwide. From the student demonstrations of the 1960s to contemporary protest movements, Guevara's image continues to be used. The difficulties of revolution: Guevara's experience in Bolivia showed that the success of revolution depends not only on ideological conviction. Local conditions, popular support, and international context are also important. Idealism and practicality: Guevara's life shows the tension between idealistic and practical approaches. His new man theory was difficult to implement in practice. Contemporary significance: Guevara's ideas remain a legacy of the past but continue to influence contemporary political debates, especially regarding inequality, social justice, and revolutionary change. Ernesto Che Guevara remains one of the most complex and influential figures of the 20th century. He was simultaneously a doctor and a revolutionary, an idealist and a pragmatist, a humanitarian and a military leader. His life and ideas continue to inspire and provoke controversy worldwide. The study of Guevara is important because it reflects the problems of an entire era: social inequality, anti-colonial struggle, revolutionary ideals, and the difficulties of their practical implementation. His legacy continues to influence contemporary political thought and shows that the study of great historical figures is always multi-layered and requires a critical approach.